Whether it's elite by nature in the National Hockey League, coming off of a hot season, or just elite in terms of the name that you bring to the table, there are just some players in fantasy hockey that you should not be drafting. A lot of the times we see these incredible players in real life not translate the same way that you would expect in your fantasy hockey leagues, or you've have a couple players coming off elite seasons and then they just fall flat on their face the following year. In last year's video, we had guys like Sam Reinhart, who came off a 100-point season only to just be around that 80-point mark. Brock Besser, who absolutely fell off of a cliff. Brad Marchand, who was well below his normal career averages. Tristan Jarry, who was borderline an AHLer. This video is going to save you. Here are 5 elite players you absolutely should not be drafting in this year's fantasy hockey season. All right, guys, starting us off on this list, first and foremost, Matthew Tkachuk. The only reason why he's here is because we know he's going to be out till at least January. I say at least because that's roughly around the same time when he needs to be back in order to get onto the Olympic roster. There were some rumors at some points that he was going to go onto the Olympic roster, back on to LTIR once the Olympics were finished. It's still very possible that he's not 100% by January. It's also very possible that he could force himself into wanting to play for this Olympic team because of the significance of it, and then not be 100% ready to go and tweak something in the tournament. Guys, there's just way too much risk associated with this pick based off of where he's going on his ADP. If you're able to get Matthew Tkachuk later into your round, like round 4, round 5, beyond that, this is a great pick. But where he's going based off of his ADP currently is like a top 2, top 3. And there is no circumstance where I'm ever drafting Matthew Tkachuk when I've got guys that are still in the 40 goal, 80 point range, or potentially over a point a game that have fallen to me, or I have a massive hole in my lineup where, say, I need to draft an elite defenseman within my first 3 rounds, which we always recommend. And if you watched Mike's strategies video, you would know this. If you haven't watched Mike's strategies video, go and do that right now. But I get it. He falls based off of his value. If you get him in like round 2, I just don't think that that's enough based off of the fact that all of the risk involved with his injury and the fact that he won't be on your team until January. You could be putting yourself in a very, very tough position. Even when he comes back into the NHL, he might not be producing at the rate that we normally see. But if I'm trying to win my fantasy hockey league this year and I'm in a redraft, I'm not drafting Matthew Tkachuk unless he falls, like I said, beyond that round 3 into round 4 potentially. Then at that point, I would consider it just because the upside if he is healthy later in the year. But you're just losing him for so long that I think there's still risk associated to it. Within your first 3 picks, you want to have absolute slam dunk picks. Up next, we have Robert Thomas. He's currently at ADP 40. He's actually dropped quite a bit from when ADP initially came out, which doesn't surprise me at all. Look, I get it. How on earth do you put a guy that had 81 points in 70 games last year and a second consecutive 80-plus point season on a do not draft video? Well, it's plain and simple. I explained it also during my top 20 centers video. So if you haven't gone and checked that out, be sure to check that out as well too. It'll tier list all of the top 20 centers for you guys. But Robert Thomas just doesn't do much outside of get you assists. He doesn't shoot the puck. His power play points aren't outstanding. His hits aren't great. He doesn't block. He barely scores on top of that. He reminds me of a Mark Stone. He reminds me of a Nicholas Backstrom back in the day where he's going to get you 20 goals, 20 to 25. He's going to get you 60 assists. And that's essentially all he does for your hockey team, especially in categories leagues. He probably has a little bit more value because he hits the assist category. Tage Thompson, Clayton Keller, Jesper Bratt, just to name a few, are all 30 to potentially 40 and even higher in Tage Thompson's case, goal scorers that have a ton of shot volume or really good shot volume and that hit in that 90-point range either way. So again, based off his ADP, not here for it. Don't like the fact that he doesn't do anything outside of getting you assists. Next, we have our first defenseman in Miro Heiskanen. Now, Heiskanen is an incredible player in real life, an elite defenseman, not even a question in my mind. He's so good. If you ever watch him play hockey, he's incredible all over the ice, one of the smoothest skaters in the league. But again, similar story to a guy like Robert Thomas, an incredible player in real life, But when it comes down to fantasy hockey, he doesn't really pan out that much. Heiskanen in the past, you used to be able to use him as like your D2 or your D3. He had around like that 50-point mark. He had that one season where he was over 70 points and 200 shots. He's consistently around the 100 block mark as well. So if you count blocks in your league, it does add more value to him. I just think the circumstance going to next season is that he's going to be the power play 2 defenseman based off of what we've seen out of Thomas Harley up until this point. He has completely taken over that power play 1 role, and that significantly drops Heiskanen's value if that's the case. I'm not saying it's 100% guarantee at this point, but I would say about 90% confidence that Thomas Harley is the power play 1 defenseman in Dallas next season. That's where I'm at. Heiskanen, again, great, but the fact that, you know, over the past couple seasons, he hasn't really shown that he could hit over that 70-point mark. He doesn't really have an exceptional shot volume on top of that. He plays a ton of minutes, and he'll get you, like I said, around 100 blocks. He doesn't really hit, but in my opinion, like, even if Harley isn't the power play 1 defenseman, he's still the better defenseman to take in fantasy, given the goal scoring upside. In the seasons where Heiskanen has had over 20 power play points, he's been in that kind of like 50 to 70 point range. The years where he hasn't had at least 20 power play points, he's been below 40 points, guys. It's just clear cut for me that Harley's the #1 guy. Heiskanen really takes a hit in that sense, so don't draft him just based off the name value. I'm staying away from Miro Heiskanen this year. Next is Matt Duchene, also of the Dallas Stars, who had an incredible season last year, where he had 82 points in 82 games with 30 goals. And there's a lot of red flags here for Duchene. I think he is the one that honestly loses out the most when it comes to that power play 1 time with the addition of Mikko Rantanen. The power play should be a J-Rob, Rantanen, Harley, Hintz, and Wyatt Johnson. That's your top 5 in Dallas right now. And so Duchene doesn't get on that top power play unit. He's also going to be 34 years old and will likely see a decline in his production, even if we aren't talking about taking him off the first power play unit. 4 years ago, he had 86 points. The year after, he had 56. Then he's back up to 65. Now he's up to 82. Like, it's all over the place with Duchene. He's older. He's probably not going to see as much ice time now with Rantanen. Even if he sticks in the top 6, I don't think he's on that power play 1 time. I know that you're looking at his stats from last year saying he had 82 points in 82 games. Guys, do not draft this guy. At his ADP, it's probably priced into that a little bit, but even at that ADP, I think there's better options available to you. And a guy that just historically doesn't really shoot the puck or get a ton of peripherals on top of that, I'm just avoiding Duchene altogether going into next season. And then finally, the last guy on our list is Dylan Strome of the Washington Capitals. Had a great year last year. 82 points in 82 games with almost 30 goals. He just sat at that 29 mark. But again, a lot of red flags here. Over the past 3 seasons, Strome has been around the 65, 60 point mark in 2 of the last 3. He's also hovered around that 25 goal mark, which, you know, it's not like it was completely insane for him to jump to that 29 mark, but he did shoot 19%, and his career average prior to that was 15. So a little bit of an increase in shooting percentage shows that some regression is likely in order. But again, he's just this type of player. He'll get you 25 goals. He'll get you around like 40 assists. He doesn't really shoot the puck. He doesn't hit. He's got some decent block totals for a forward, but again, doesn't do much outside of that. You also have to remember that Ovi's probably slowing down a little bit too. Now that he's got the record, it won't be as a priority for that team. They were kind of riding that high of getting Ovi to that one spot. If you look across the board on Washington, a lot of their players had career years. A lot of their players had really good shooting percentages, including Ovi on top of that. So I think there's some regression in order here for the Caps. As ADP, you could probably consider him, but again, there are just better options available that hit more categories across the board. And it's not like I'm going to see another 80-point season out of Dylan Strome going into this year. Unfortunately, he'll likely come back down to that like 65-point range as the team kind of comes back down to earth. Guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments down below what elite player you are avoiding this year. Let me know also if you guys agree with the list, what would you change? But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed. We have a ton of content coming for the rest of September, guys, well into fantasy hockey season as well. So be sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed. Thank you again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of the day.